The crystal palace of Zephyria gleamed under twin purple suns as Captain Jake Martinez stepped off the transport ship. He had seen many worlds during his time with Earth Defense Force, but nothing like this. The buildings rose like living gems from the silver ground, and the air itself seemed to sparkle with tiny lights. Jake adjusted his dress uniform and checked his equipment one more time. This was humanity's first official visit to the Zephyrian Empire, and everything had to go perfect. Princess Luna watched from her tower window as the human delegation walked toward the palace. She had heard stories about these new beings who had only recently joined the galactic community. The Zephyrian nobles called them primitive and crude, but Luna was curious. Her mother, Queen Celeste, had agreed to this meeting only because the humans controlled several important trade routes. Luna pressed her crystalline hand against the cool window and wondered what these humans were really like. The throne room was massive with walls that glowed soft blue light. Jake and his team of 5 officers walked down the long corridor toward the crystal throne where Queen Celeste sat. Her skin looked like polished diamond, and her eyes were the color of deep space. Princess Luna stood beside the throne wearing robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. Jake had to remind himself to breathe normally and focus on the mission. Queen Celeste spoke in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome, humans, to Zephyria. We have heard much about your species." Jake stepped forward and bowed exactly as the protocol manual had instructed. "Your Majesty, we are honored by your invitation. Earth hopes to build lasting friendship with your empire." The Queen's expression remained cold and formal, but Jake noticed Princess Luna leaned forward slightly as if she was interested in what he might say next. The formal meetings went on for 3 days. Jake and his team discussed trade agreements, mineral rights, and navigation treaties. The Zephyrian officials were polite but distant. They clearly thought humans were beneath them in intelligence and culture. Jake kept his temper under control even when Lord Commander Vaxes suggested that humans were barely more advanced than animals. Princess Luna said nothing during these meetings, but Jake caught her watching him with curious eyes. On the 4th day, Princess Luna approached Jake in the palace gardens. She moved with graceful steps that barely disturbed the crystal flowers around the pathways. "Captain Martinez," she said in perfect English, "I hope you are finding our world interesting." Jake was surprised by her direct approach. Royal protocol said she should not speak to him without other nobles present, but they were alone among the singing trees. "Your world is beautiful, Princess," Jake replied honestly. "I have never seen anything like these gardens." Luna smiled, and her face lit up like a small sun. "Most visitors only see the palace halls. Would you like me to show you the real Zephyria?" Jake knew he should decline and return to his duties, but something in her voice made him nod yes. Luna led him through hidden passages and secret doors until they reached a balcony that overlooked the entire crystal city. The view took Jake's breath away. Millions of Zephyrians moved through the streets below while flying vehicles danced between the towering spires. "This is where I come to think," Luna said softly. "Sometimes being a princess feels like living in a beautiful cage." Jake was surprised by her honesty. "I understand that feeling, Princess. Sometimes duty can feel heavy even when you know it's important." Luna turned to look at him with new interest. "Do humans struggle with duty and desire as we do?" Jake nodded. "Every day. We're not so different from your people in that way." They talked for hours about their worlds, their dreams, and their fears. Luna told Jake about the pressure to marry for political reasons and how she longed to see other worlds. Jake shared stories about Earth's blue oceans and green forests. He described human cities where people from different backgrounds lived and worked together. Luna listened with wonder as Jake explained how humans celebrated their differences instead of fearing them. Over the following weeks, Jake found reasons to visit the garden balcony every evening. Princess Luna was always there waiting for him. They shared human books and Zephyrian poetry. Luna taught Jake to hear the music that Zephyrian crystals made when the wind blew through them. Jake showed Luna pictures of Earth and told her about human music that could make people laugh or cry. Jake realized he was falling in love with this alien princess who saw beauty in everything and dreamed of freedom. Luna found herself drawn to this human who treated her like a person instead of just a royal title. Their friendship deepened into something neither of them had expected to find. The secret meetings continued until one evening when Lord Commander Vaxes followed Jake to the garden. He saw Princess Luna and Jake holding hands while watching the sunset over the Crystal City. Vaxes's face turned dark with anger, and he immediately reported what he had seen to Queen Celeste. The next morning, guards came to escort Jake to an emergency meeting with the Queen. Queen Celeste's eyes burned with cold fire as she faced Jake in her private chamber. Captain Martinez, it has come to my attention that you have been meeting with my daughter without permission. This behavior is completely unacceptable. Jake stood at attention but did not apologize. Your Majesty, I have great respect for princes Luna and would never do anything to harm her reputation. The Queen's laugh was like breaking glass. Harm her reputation? You are a human captain. Your very presence near her is an insult to our royal bloodline. Princess Luna burst into the room before Jake could respond. Mother, this is not Captain Martinez's fault. I asked him to meet with me. Queen Celeste turned her angry gaze toward her daughter. Luna, you will explain yourself immediately. The princess lifted her chin and looked directly into her mother's eyes. I care about Jake, mother. He has shown me kindness and respect. He sees me as Luna, not just as a princess. The queen's face went pale with shock and rage. You forget yourself. Daughter, guards escort Captain Martinez back to his ship. The human delegation will leave Zephyria immediately. As the guards moved toward Jake, Princess Luna stepped between them. Mother, please listen to me. But Queen Celeste had already turned away. The audience was over and Jake's time on Zephyria was finished. Queen Celeste paced back and forth in her private chambers while Princess Luna stood silently near the window. The morning light made the queen's crystal skin sparkle, but her face was dark with anger. 3 days had passed since Jake and the human delegation left Zephyria, and the queen had not spoken to her daughter until now. The silence between them felt heavy and cold. Luna, you have brought shame upon our family and our empire, Queen Celeste said finally. What you did with that human was beyond foolish. It was dangerous. Princess Luna turned from the window to face her mother. I brought no shame, mother. Jake treated me with honor and respect. The queen's eyes flashed with fury. Honor? Respect? He is a primitive being from a world that has barely learned to travel between stars. You are the heir to the crystal throne of Zephyria. Princess Luna felt anger rising in her chest but kept her voice calm. Jake is intelligent and kind. He understands things about leadership and duty that many of our nobles never will. Queen Celeste stopped pacing and stared at her daughter. You speak of this human as if he were your equal. Have you forgotten who you are? Have you forgotten your responsibilities to your people? The queen moved to her desk and activated a holographic display. Images of Prince Vex of the Altarian Empire appeared in the air. He was tall and handsome with silver skin and golden eyes. Prince Vex has asked for your hand in marriage, Luna. His father, Emperor Zane, controls the largest military fleet in this sector. An alliance with Altaria would protect Zephyria for generations. Princess Luna looked at the images of Prince Vex and felt nothing. She had met him twice at diplomatic functions and found him arrogant and cold. Mother, I do not love Prince Vex, and I never will. Queen Celeste's voice became sharp as broken crystal. Love is a luxury that princesses cannot afford. You will marry Prince Vex and strengthen our empire, or you will face exile from Zephyria forever. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Jake Martinez sat in Admiral Kate Sullivan's office at Defense Command Headquarters. The Admiral was a tough woman with gray hair and steel blue eyes who had fought in 3 interstellar conflicts. She looked at Jake with disappointment and concern. Captain, your behavior on Zephyria has created a diplomatic crisis. Queen Celeste has filed an official complaint about your conduct. Jake kept his expression neutral, but inside he felt frustrated. Admiral, I followed all protocols during the mission. My personal time was my own. Admiral Sullivan leaned forward across her desk. Personal time? Jake, you fell in love with an alien princess. That is not personal time, that is an international incident waiting to happen. Lieutenant Ben Carter knocked on the office door and entered when the Admiral called him in. Ben was Jake's closest friend and had served with him for 8 years. He had dark skin and warm brown eyes that usually sparkled with humor, but today he looked worried. "Admiral, you wanted to see me?" Admiral Sullivan nodded. "Lieutenant Carter, I need you to talk sense into your friend here. Maybe he will listen to you?" After the Admiral dismissed them, Ben and Jake walked to the base cafeteria for coffee. The room was mostly empty since it was late afternoon. They sat at a corner table where they could speak privately. "Jake, what the hell were you thinking?" Ben asked quietly. "I mean, I get it, she's probably beautiful and exotic, but this could end your career." Jake stared into his coffee cup and thought about Luna's smile and the way she had looked at the stars while they talked about dreams and freedom. "Ben, it was not about her being exotic. Luna is smart and brave, and she sees the world differently than anyone I have ever met. She made me want to be a better person." Ben sighed and shook his head. "Brother, I understand that you care about her, but look at reality. She lives on a planet that is 50 light years away. She is royalty, and you are military. Her people think humans are barely civilized. There's no future there." Jake knew Ben was right, but his heart did not want to accept it. The next morning, Jake received orders to report for a new assignment on the frontier world of New Texas. It was basically a punishment posting far from Earth and far from any chance of seeing Luna again. Jake packed his belongings and tried to convince himself that leaving was for the best. Luna had her duties and he had his on Zephyria Princess. Luna refused to eat or leave her chambers. She spent hours staring out at the stars and thinking about Jake's stories of Earth. She remembered how he had described human cities where people from different backgrounds worked together. She thought about his idea that strength came from diversity, not from keeping bloodlines pure. Queen Celeste visited her daughter's chambers on the 5th day. She found Luna sitting by the window looking pale and thin. "Daughter, you must end this foolishness. Prince Vex arrives next week to formally ask for your hand. You will accept his proposal and we will announce the engagement immediately." "Princess." Luna stood up and faced her mother with determination. "I will not marry Prince Vex, mother. I do not care if you exile me from Zephyria. I would rather live as a common citizen on some distant world than marry someone I cannot love." Queen Celeste felt a moment of doubt but pushed it away. "Luna, you are being childish. In time you will understand that duty must come before personal desires." The argument between mother and daughter was interrupted by urgent alarms throughout the palace. Lord Commander Vaxes burst into the chamber without waiting for permission. His face was tight with fear and his hands shook as he spoke. "Your Majesty, we have received emergency signals from the outer colonies. The Krathen swarm has attacked New Geneva and Titan Station. Both colonies have gone silent." Queen Celeste felt ice form in her stomach. The Krathen swarm was a nightmare that every civilized world feared. They were a collective intelligence that consumed entire planets and turned captured beings into mindless drones. No one had seen them in this sector for over 50 years. "How many ships do they have?" the Queen asked. Lord Commander Vaxes checked his datapad with trembling fingers. "Long-range sensors show at least 200 vessels, Your Majesty. They are moving toward the core worlds and will reach Zephyrian space within 10 days. Princess Luna felt her personal problems fade away as she realized the scale of the threat. The Krathen swarm could destroy everything she had ever known. Queen Celeste's mind raced through possible responses. The Zephyrian fleet was strong, but not strong enough to face the swarm alone. She would need allies, and that meant swallowing her pride. Send immediate messages to all friendly governments. Tell them we need military assistance against the Krathen threat. Lord Commander Vaxes nodded and hurried from the room. Princess Luna looked at her mother with new understanding. Mother, you will need to ask the humans for help, will you not? Queen Celeste's face twisted with the bitter taste of necessity. Yes, Luna, we will need their ships and their soldiers. We will need Captain Martinez and his people to fight beside us, as rescue ships prepared to leave for the outer colonies. Princess Luna made a decision that would change everything. She walked to her mother's communication center and sent a private Message to Earth. The message was simple but filled with desperate hope. Jake, the Krathen swarm has come. We need you. I need you. Please come back to us. The message traveled through hyperspace toward Earth while Princess Luna prepared to face the greatest threat in Zephyrian history. She did not know if Jake would receive her message or if he would be able to help, but she knew that humanity's strange ability to find solutions to impossible problems might be their only hope for survival. Jake Martinez was inspecting the new defensive systems on New Texas when Ben Carter ran across the landing pad waving a datapad above his head. The frontier world was hot and dusty with two small suns that made everything look orange and red. Jake had been there for only a week but already missed the cool, clean air of Earth. Jake, you need to see this message right now, Ben shouted as he approached. Jake took the datapad and read Luna's message 3 times before the words really sank in. The Krathen swarm was attacking Zephyrian space and Luna was asking for his help. His heart started beating faster as he thought about Luna facing those monsters. Ben, we need to get back to Earth immediately. I have to talk to Admiral Sullivan. The trip back to Earth took 2 days through hyperspace and Jake spent every minute thinking about the Krathen swarm. He had studied them at the military academy and knew they were one of the most dangerous enemies in the galaxy. They turned captured worlds into breeding grounds for more ships and soldiers. Once they established a foothold in a sector, they were almost impossible to stop. Admiral Sullivan was in an emergency meeting with the Earth Defense Council when Jake arrived at headquarters. The entire command center buzzed with activity as officers planned humanity's response to the crisis. Jake waited outside the briefing room until the Admiral emerged looking tired and worried. Captain Martinez, I suppose you heard about the situation in Zephyrian space. Jake followed the Admiral to her office where star charts covered every wall. Red markers showed Krathen positions while blue markers indicated Allied forces. The situation looked desperate. Admiral requests permission to lead a volunteer force to assist the Zephyrians, Jake said immediately. Admiral Sullivan raised one eyebrow. Jake, this is not about rescuing your alien girlfriend. This is about preventing the swarm from reaching human space. The Admiral activated a holographic display that showed the current tactical situation. Krathen forces had already destroyed 6 colonies and were moving steadily toward the core worlds. The Zephyrians have requested assistance and we are going to provide it. You will command a joint strike force with Captain Lisa Murphy and Captain Ray Johnson. Your mission is to buy time for the main fleet to organize a counterattack. Jake felt relief and terror in equal measure. He would see Luna again, but they would be facing an enemy that had destroyed civilizations across the galaxy. What forces will I have, Admiral? Admiral Sullivan highlighted several ship icons on the display. 12 human destroyers and 80 Zephyrian cruisers. Not much against 200 Krathen vessels, but it will have to do. The combined fleet met at Nexus Station 3 days later. The massive space facility orbited between human and Zephyrian territory and served as a neutral meeting point for trade and diplomacy. Jake had never seen so many different ship designs in one place. Human vessels looked angular and practical, while Zephyrian ships were elegant curves of crystal and metal. Princes. Luna arrived on the Zephyrian flagship Star of Hope, and Jake felt his breath catch when he saw her again. She wore a military uniform instead of royal robes and carried herself with new confidence and purpose. When they met in the station's briefing room, she smiled at him with warmth that made his heart race. Jake, I knew you would come. Queen Celeste was also present for the briefing along with her top military commanders. She looked at Jake with something that might have been respect instead of contempt. Captain Martinez, Earth's assistance is greatly appreciated. Perhaps I misjudged your people's commitment to galactic peace. Jake nodded politely but focused his attention on the tactical displays. The Krathen swarm had reached the outer edge of Zephyrian space and was attacking the mining world of Crystal Falls. Long-range sensors showed their standard attack pattern with hundreds of small ships swarming around larger command vessels. Captain Lisa Murphy pointed to the enemy formation. They adapt to our tactics within minutes. Every strategy we use becomes useless after the first engagement. Princess Luna studied the sensor data with interest. Jake, your people think differently than we do. How would humans approach this problem? Jake examined the Krathen formation and remembered something from his academy studies. The swarm's strength is also its weakness. They share information instantly, but that means they all make the same assumptions. Jake outlined his plan to the assembled officers. Instead of trying to outfight the Krathen, they would confuse them with random, unpredictable tactics. Human ships would play music on all frequencies while changing course randomly. Zephyrian vessels would use their psychic abilities to create false sensor readings and phantom targets. The goal was to overwhelm the swarm's collective intelligence. With too much contradictory information, Captain Ray Johnson shook his head in doubt. Jake, that sounds completely crazy. You want to fight a space battle while playing rock music? Jake grinned and remembered Luna's fascination with human creativity. Crazy is exactly what we need, Ray. The Krathen expect logical tactical responses. We are going to give them chaos instead. The battle for Crystal Falls began 6 hours later. Jake's fleet dropped out of hyperspace just as Krathen landing ships reached the planet's surface. The enemy responded immediately with their standard swarming tactics, but then human ships began broadcasting everything from classical symphonies to heavy metal rock. Zephyrian psychics projected images of thousands of fake ships while real vessels moved in patterns that made no tactical sense. The Krathen formation wavered as their collective mind tried to process the contradictory information. Some ships turned toward phantom targets while others tried to jam the music that was somehow interfering with their coordination systems. Jake seized the moment of confusion and ordered all ships to attack the enemy command vessels. Princess Luna coordinated the psychic assault from the Star of Hope, while Jake led the physical attack in his destroyer Defiance. The combination of human unpredictability and Zephyrian mental powers proved devastatingly effective. Within 2 hours, the Krathen force was retreating in disorder. Leaving Crystal Falls, badly damaged but still free, the victory celebration was brief because long-range sensors detected a much larger Krathen force approaching the core systems. Jake and Luna met privately on Nexus Station to plan their next move. Luna, we bought some time, but the main swarm is still coming. They will adapt to our tactics and be ready for the music and illusions. Princess Luna took Jake's hand and looked into his eyes. Then we will have to find new ways to confuse them. Jake, my people have always believed that order and predictability were signs of strength. You have shown us that sometimes chaos and change are more powerful. Jake squeezed her hand gently. We make a good team, Princess. Your people's discipline, combined with human creativity, might be exactly what we need. The next battle would be at the heavily defended world of New Zephyr, where Queen Celeste had concentrated the Empire's remaining fleet. Jake and Luna had 3 days to prepare a defense that could stop the largest Krathen force seen in 50 years. The fate of both human and Zephyrian civilization would depend on their ability to work together. As they planned their desperate strategy, Jake realized that this war was changing everything between their peoples. Humans and Zephyrians were learning to trust each other in ways that no diplomatic treaty could ever achieve. Luna was becoming a bridge between worlds, while Jake discovered that love could survive even in the middle of an interstellar war. The medical bay on New Zephyr Station smelled like antiseptic and crystal flowers as Queen Celeste walked quietly toward Jake's recovery bed. 3 days had passed since the desperate battle where he had thrown himself between Princess Luna and a Krathen energy blast. The human captain lay unconscious with regeneration fields, working to repair the terrible burns across his back and shoulders. Luna sat beside the bed holding Jake's hand and whispering stories about Earth that he had told her during their secret meetings. She had not left his side since the doctors brought him from the battlefield. Queen Celeste paused in the doorway, watching her daughter care for this human who had nearly died protecting her. Something had changed in the Queen's heart during the past week of fighting beside Earth's forces. Luna, you should rest, Queen Celeste said softly as she entered the room. The doctors say he will recover fully. Princess Luna looked up with tired eyes that were red from crying. Mother, I cannot leave him. Jake saved my life and I failed to protect him. The Queen sat down in the chair across from Luna and studied Jake's peaceful face. Queen Celeste had spent her entire life believing that Zephyrians were superior to all other species in the galaxy. Her people lived longer, were more intelligent, and possessed psychic abilities that others could not match. She had taught Luna that royal blood was sacred and that mixing with inferior races would weaken their empire. Now she was questioning everything she had believed. "Tell me about this human Luna," the Queen said quietly. "What do you see in him that I cannot?" Princess Luna smiled despite her exhaustion and began to speak. "Jake thinks differently than we do, Mother. When we face a problem, we look for the most logical solution. Jake looks for the solution that no one else would ever consider." Luna told her mother about Jake's crazy battle plans that had confused the Krathen and saved thousands of lives. She described how he treated every soldier with respect regardless of their species or rank. She explained how Jake believed that people should be judged by their actions rather than their birth. "He has never asked me to give up being Zephyrian, Mother. He just wants me to be myself." Queen Celeste listened with growing interest as her daughter painted a picture of a man who led by example rather than royal decree. "Luna, this human has unusual ideas about leadership. Most rulers demand obedience through fear or tradition." Princess Luna nodded eagerly. "Jake says that real leaders earn loyalty by serving their people instead of commanding them." Jake's eyes opened slowly, and he tried to sit up before Luna gently pushed him back down. "Easy there, hero," she said with relief flooding her voice. "You have been unconscious for 3 days." Jake blinked in confusion until he saw Queen Celeste sitting nearby. He tried to stand and bow, but his injured body would not cooperate. "Your Majesty, I apologize for my appearance," Jake said formally. Queen Celeste raised one crystalline hand to stop him. "Captain Martinez, there is no need for ceremony. I came here to thank you for saving my daughter's life." Jake looked confused since he could barely remember the battle that had injured him. Queen Celeste moved her chair closer to Jake's bed and spoke in a voice that held no trace of royal coldness. "Captain, I would like to understand something about your people. Why did you risk your life for Luna? She is not your species, and you have known her for only a short time." Jake thought about the question carefully before answering. "Your Majesty, humans believe that some things are more important than our own safety," Jake said slowly. "Luna is kind and brave and smart. She deserves to live and be happy regardless of what planet she comes from." Queen Celeste felt something shift inside her chest as she heard the simple honesty in his words. The Queen asked Jake about human concepts of government and leadership while Luna watched with amazement. Her mother was actually listening to ideas that challenged Zephyrian traditions. Jake explained how Earth's democracy worked and why humans valued individual freedom alongside collective responsibility. "We have learned that diversity makes us stronger, Your Majesty. When people from different backgrounds work together, they find solutions that none of them could discover alone." Queen Celeste found herself nodding as Jake described human history and the mistakes they had learned from. "Your people have fought many wars against each other, have they not, Captain?" Jake's expression grew sad as he remembered the darker chapters of human history. "Yes, Your Majesty, we have done terrible things to each other. But we have also learned to be better than we were." The conversation was interrupted by urgent alarms throughout the station. Princess Luna activated the communication system and received reports that made her face go pale. The main Krathen fleet had bypassed the outer defenses and was approaching New Zephyr directly. The enemy had adapted to their previous tactics and was no longer confused by music or illusions. Queen Celeste stood up with determination. "Captain Martinez, you are in no condition to fight. Luna will coordinate the defense from the command center." But Princess Luna shook her head firmly. "Mother, I am going to lead the fighter squadrons personally. The pilots need to see that the royal family shares their risks." Jake struggled to get out of bed despite the pain in his injured body. "Luna, you cannot fly combat missions. You are too important to risk." Princess Luna turned to face him with fire in her crystal blue eyes. "Jake, you taught me that real leaders do not hide behind others. I will not ask Zephyrian pilots to die while I stay safe in a bunker." Queen Celeste watched the exchange between her daughter and the human captain with new understanding. Luna had learned courage from Jake while he had learned wisdom from her. They made each other stronger and better than they could be alone. Luna, you will lead the defense, but you will take additional precautions. Captain Martinez will advise from the command center despite his injuries. The battle for New Zephyr lasted 18 hours with waves of Krathen ships attacking the planet's orbital defenses. Princess Luna flew her fighter with skill and daring while coordinating the entire defensive effort. She used tactics that Jake had taught her combined with Zephyrian precision and discipline. The enemy was surprised by the new hybrid strategy and suffered heavy losses. Jake watched from the command center with pride and terror as Luna led attack after attack against impossible odds. His body was too damaged to fight, but his mind was clear and sharp. He suggested target priorities and tactical adjustments while Luna and her pilots executed brilliant maneuvers that kept the Krathen fleet off balance. The turning point came when Jake realized that the Krathen command ship was using a predictable pattern to coordinate their attacks. He convinced Luna to lead a desperate strike directly at the enemy flagship while the main fleet created a diversion. The plan was incredibly dangerous, but it was their only chance to break the swarm's momentum. Princess Luna's squadron broke through the Krathen defensive screen and attacked the command ship from an unexpected angle. The enemy flagship was destroyed, but Luna's fighter was badly damaged in the explosion. Jake watched helplessly as her ship spun out of control toward the planet's atmosphere. Luna managed to stabilize her fighter just before it would have burned up during re-entry. She landed safely at the main spaceport while the remaining Krathen ships retreated in confusion without their command vessel. The defense of New Zephyr was successful, but Jake knew that even bigger challenges lay ahead. Queen Celeste found Jake in the medical bay after the battle ended. His injuries had reopened during the stress of coordinating the defense, and he was weak from blood loss. Captain Martinez, my daughter could have died today because of the tactics you taught her. Jake felt his heart sink until he saw the Queen's expression. She also lived because of what you taught her, Queen Celeste continued. Luna has become a true leader and a bridge between our peoples. I begin to understand why she loves you, Captain. Jake stared at the Queen in shock as she smiled, with genuine warmth for the first time since they had met. The crystal gardens of Zephyria bloomed with new colors as Jake walked slowly down the pathway toward the sacred grove. His injuries had healed during the month since the final battle against the Krathen swarm, but he still moved carefully. The scars across his back would remain forever, but Jake considered them a small price for the victory they had achieved together. Princess Luna waited for him beneath the singing trees wearing a simple white dress instead of her royal robes. Her crystal skin glowed softly in the filtered sunlight, and her smile could have powered a small starship. Jake still could not believe that this amazing woman wanted to spend her life with him. "Are you nervous?" she asked as he approached. Jake laughed and took her hands in his. "Terrified," he admitted honestly. "I'm about to marry an alien princess in a ceremony that combines traditions from two completely different worlds. Also, your mother might still change her mind and have me executed." Luna giggled, and the sound was like music from the crystal wind chimes. Queen Celeste approached through the garden wearing ceremonial robes that sparkled with embedded starlight. She had changed dramatically during the war months and now moved with grace instead of cold authority. Ben Carter walked beside her wearing his dress uniform and carrying the rings that would bind Jake and Luna according to both human and Zephyrian customs. "Captain Martinez, are you prepared to take responsibility for my daughter's happiness?" Queen Celeste asked with mock seriousness. Jake bowed formally and replied, "Your Majesty, I promise to love Luna and support her dreams for as long as I live." The Queen nodded approval and signaled for the ceremony to begin. Admiral Kate Sullivan represented Earth at the wedding along with Captain Lisa Murphy and Captain Ray Johnson. The human delegation looked somewhat uncomfortable in the magical Crystal Grove, but they smiled as Jake and Luna exchanged vows. Admiral Sullivan had initially opposed the marriage but changed her mind after seeing how effectively humans and Zephyrians fought together. The ceremony combined elements from both cultures with Jake and Luna promising to honor each other's heritage. While building something new together, they exchanged rings made from earth gold and Zephyrian crystal while promising to be partners in all things. When they kissed, the crystal trees sang with joy and small lights danced through the air around them. The celebration feast lasted 3 days with guests from a dozen different worlds. Jake was amazed to see species that had never spoken to each other sharing food and stories. Altarian diplomats sat beside human scientists, while Zephyrian nobles learned human dancing from Earth military officers. The wedding had become a symbol of cooperation that was spreading throughout the galaxy. On the third evening, Jake and Luna walked alone through the palace gardens while fireworks exploded in the night sky above them. "Do you think we can really make this work?" Jake asked quietly. 2 different species from different worlds with completely different backgrounds? Luna stopped walking and turned to face him with serious eyes. "Jake, we have already proven that love can survive anything," she said firmly. "We have fought wars together and changed the thinking of entire civilizations. Building a marriage should be much easier than defeating the Krathan swarm." Jake grinned and pulled her close for a kiss that tasted like starlight and promises. "Queen Celeste announced Jake's appointment as Earth's permanent ambassador to Zephyria during the wedding feast. The position would allow him to remain on Zephyria while building stronger connections between their peoples. Princess Luna accepted the role of chief advisor on interspecies relations, which meant she would help guide Zephyrian policy toward other worlds. 6 months later, Jake stood in the great assembly hall of the Galactic Council representing both Earth and Zephyria. Representatives from 30 different worlds had gathered to discuss the formation of a new mutual defense alliance. The Krathan threat had shown everyone that no single species could stand alone against such dangers. Princess Luna sat beside him wearing the formal robes of a Zephyrian diplomat but with human symbols woven into the crystal fabric. Their marriage had inspired other interspecies relationships, and several worlds were now discussing cultural exchange programs. The old barriers of fear and prejudice were slowly breaking down. The Altarian ambassador stood to address the assembly. "The recent crisis has taught us valuable lessons about cooperation and mutual respect. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our traditional attitudes toward species mixing." Jake smiled as he remembered Queen Celeste's initial horror at his relationship with Luna. Now she was one of the strongest supporters of interspecies cooperation. Ambassador Sarah Kim from the Trade Federation raised an important question. "What guarantees do we have that these new alliances will remain stable? History shows us that partnerships based on necessity often collapse when the immediate threat disappears." Princess Luna stood to respond with confidence and grace. "Ambassador Kim, our alliance is not based only on necessity," Luna said clearly. "It is based on the understanding that diversity creates strength. When different peoples work together, they find solutions that none of them could discover alone. This is not just military strategy, it is a better way to live." The